Yeah, I just started.
Yeah, yeah, thank you.
Yeah. We also discussed about software as a service, wherein we saw that people use subscription-based model from different software providers, right? And you do not have to worry about maintaining the infrastructure of the services that you provide, right? So that's something that we discussed. And then we had a look at platform as a service, where you get, the platform as a service will be the delivery of computing platform and solution stack as a service. Meaning, you not only get the subscription of the software, we also get ability to change that platform a bit and to customize it according to your requirement, right? So that's how we should be seeing this, as far as ServiceNow is concerned, right? Then this will be a comparison chart just to quickly see how infrastructure as a service and platform as a service would differentiate. The point of differentiation that I have here is within the stack that you have for platform as a service and information as a infrastructure as a service. What are the components that you have to manage when we talk about infrastructure as a service or when we talk about platform as a service? So what this diagram tells to us right now is, see, there are different components within, software as a service. For example, you have to manage a data layer, application layer, database, runtime, middle layer, all these layers down the bottom, right? Now, when you have an infrastructure as a service subscription with you, if you are maintaining that, then you have to manage these top five components, right? But when we talk about platform as a service, and ServiceNow specifically in our case, when we talk about ServiceNow, all we need to do is we need to manage the data and the application, right? The rest of the components within this stack will be managed by the service provider, which is ServiceNow in our case, right? So you have to rest assured that the other things that are there in the software as a service stack, will not worry you at all because you have just to deal with the data and application. So you keep on building applications in ServiceNow, and you populate data into the system, right? The rest of the management things for all these items will be done by ServiceNow. That's the point here. Now, ITIL becomes an important concept for ServiceNow because ServiceNow is whole and solely dependent on ITIL principles and framework. When we talk about ITIL principle, what do we actually mean, right? So ITIL principle was designed by British cabinet just to make sure that best practices from every industry and every vertical and horizontal is accumulated in some sort of framework and is available for public use. Right? Now, when we talk about framework, is it a mandatory stuff? No, it's not a mandatory stuff. You don't have to mandatorily accept ITIL framework and implement within your organization. It's a framework, it's a set of best practices, which is not a compliance. So you may or may not choose ITIL to be implemented within organization. Now, when you think of using a ServiceNow within your organization, and since ServiceNow is based out of based on ITIL framework, this becomes important for us now. Since ITIL is the building block for ServiceNow, because the process applications that you'll see originates from the ITIL principles and frameworks. So this becomes important, right? And so this is a small snapshot of what we have in ITIL framework, right? So if you see, some core components are there in ITIL framework, that's service strategy, service operation, design, and transition, right? It's an end-to-end development lifecycle for a software product, right? Where you design a strategy for the software development, you do evaluation, budgeting, accounting, financing, etc. for that project. That goes into service strategy. You also decide who will be, your end user of the product, right? So everything that you do in the initial stages of the product development, that goes into service strategy, and you plan for that product in the service strategy phase, right? The next phase would be service design, where you actually go and start blueprinting and designing the application, right? This will be somewhere where you create the high level designs. You will create you'll do coding as well in service design, is that service design phase, right? After you are done with the coding and unit testing, the next step goes into which is known as service transition, right? So this is your testing, evaluation, QA step within this software delivery process, right? The next step would be service operation, and this is where service now becomes very important, right? Uh, Service operation is something when the product is made live for consumer use, right? And you have to maintain that product so that the day-to-day operational issues or operational needs that you see for that product and the consumers around you will be fulfilled in this phase. So that's service operation. And then the next component that you see here is continual service improvement, right? So this continual service improvement shows to you that there is a need to improve the processes within this software development life cycle, and that is applicable to each phase of the software development and not just one, right? So this continual service improvement, the person doing service design and or service strategy or transition on operation, they'll keep reinventing the wheel within their process, within their team. They'll keep reinventing the processes and improve the processes within the team. And that process, that component within ITIL framework will be talked as continual service improvement, right? So these are 4 or 5 core components of ITIL framework, and based on which you have different tools available in ITIL framework. See, the different tools that you have will be standards alignment, where you have different standards across the industry, and this framework will help you do standard alignment, right, related to that. You will have different case studies from different areas. You will have templates for different stuffs. It talks about scalability, right? It ensures that following this, you'll get a quick win for different projects and products that you build, and different other aspects and tools available in service ITIL framework. So this diagram essentially shows to you how ITIL will be, what are the core components in ITIL and what are the tools available in it, right? Now, when we talk about ServiceNow, see the applications that we have, the template applications that we have in ServiceNow are, based on this ITIL. So the business processes and the flows that are designed are also derived from the processes available in ITIL framework. We will talk about it in greater detail when we go, when we reach at that point. Moving to the next slide. This screenshot gives you a snapshot of what are the applications available in ServiceNow that you can go ahead and use, right? So see, starting from service strategy, within service strategy, like I talked about financing, IT, and budgeting, right? You'll go ahead and see that there are a couple of applications available that you can use for service strategy making. See this orange bar here? It contains service portfolio management, project portfolio, and financial management. So these are the essential planning objectives that you have when you are into service strategy phase, right? And to support that, you have these three applications: service portfolio, project, and financial management. Talking about service design, there are applications available in ServiceNow. Those applications are like supplier management, availability management, service level management, and service catalog. Right? We'll talk about these applications in detail later. Moving to service transition. Service transition is, like we talked about, service transition is when you are done with, you know, building something, doing the coding, you are done with high level design or low level design, you implement that thing using coding or something, scripting. When you are done, you move that into a different phase, which is your testing phase, right? And that testing phase will, the testing and transitioning phase will include these many applications that you have, where it will have a change management process. That change management process will evaluate every change that is introduced into the into the system. By change, what do we mean? By change, we mean that any asset within the organization, whether it's a server, hardware, application, software, license, any asset within the organization, if it is going to change slightly, if any of the property of that asset or configuration item is going to change within the organization, that change has to be recorded within the system in ServiceNow, right? So if you have to record that change somewhere, that change recording process goes into this change management application, right? Again, we'll be talking about this change management application in greater detail later, but to summarize right now, this is how we'll be doing in change management. Every change within the organization will go into the change management application, right? Then we have a release management application that will take care of different release aspects of product that you have. We will talk about it as well. You have another tool which is project management application, which is many of the organizations choose ServiceNow's project management application to do all the project management initiatives that they have within the organization. Then you have a test management application also available in ServiceNow that you can use to plan your uh, you know, test cycle within the organization, and you can use this application that's available there. Knowledge management would be used to 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 document the knowledge that you have gathered starting from service strategy, design, service transition, and even in the operational phases, right? So this knowledge application is again an application that you will be using to create all the knowledge that you have gathered over the period of time, right? That also comes into service transition. The most important part would be the CMDB, right, which is configuration management database. Why is it important? It is important because this is a single system of record that you have within your enterprise, right? Enterprises are actively using configuration management database as a single system of record and truth, meaning every asset within the organization, every event within the organization that is happening, right? Every asset that you have, the relationship the assets have with other assets, everything, relationship of that kind, every information will be stored into CMDB, right? And the records that you create from the change application or release application, test application, service catalog application, all these applications will be somehow interrelated or somehow related and will be stored into the CMDB, right? So that's why it becomes important because this is the building block for, this is the core component for ServiceNow application, and this will be a point of integration as well for you because whenever you have to interface your applications or third-party applications to ServiceNow, you will have to consider how do you import data into ServiceNow, and that data goes into CMDB somehow, right? So that's a component in ServiceNow that will be very important to discuss. Now, other applications that you have that is related to the ServiceNow operational aspects will be applications like asset management, request management, event management. See, let's talk about these applications quickly. So starting with asset management, every asset that we have within the organization, like the server, hardware, keyboard, mouse, networking devices, network cable, LAN, WAN, etc. Whatever you have, when you introduce this hardware or software or any asset within the enterprise, the day you introduce that asset within the enterprise, you maintain, you create a asset management lifecycle for that. You create an entry of that asset within the IT asset management application, where you go ahead and create a record for that application, and you also identify the date of decommissioning that asset from the organization, right? Right from the start until the asset is decommissioned, you have different phases for that asset that you are building into the organization, right? Um, you can think of it as maintaining those assets within the organization. So that goes into the asset management application, right? Request management will be, when you have different requests within the organization, like, you have procurement requests, you have service desk requests, any request that you have, that request management will go into this application, request management application. Event management, to describe event management, I'll say, let's take an example. If you have a server where you have 500 gigs of data, space available, right? And you have a system in place that will take care that, if there is a scarcity of system disk space available, you should be notified about that event, right? An automated email should fire whenever the disk space on the server is left, below 10%, right? So by doing this, you want to ensure that the server that you have, it should not run out of space, right? So if you have any automated process of a process like that, that goes into the event management process, right? So that will be taken care by event management process, where you will have a lot more automation done to make sure that your assets are maintained and the different triggers are hit whenever some events occur, right? Incident management will be any operational issue that you see with any of these applications that should be reported in terms of incident. And if an incident is reported, that has to be dealt separately and dealt as an incident, and that will be taken care of within this incident management application, right? Problem management would be, problem management is just like incident management, but there are some subtle differences between problem and incident, right? Um, for example, an incident becomes a problem when it affects more users, right? And not just one, or it affects, some critical applications which has a huge impact within the organization, right? Or it is a repetitive activity. If it is a repetitive incident which is not getting fixed because of the workarounds that you provide, right? Workaround, why we talk about workaround is, whenever an incident is reported, the person who works on that incident may suggest to have a workaround and resolve that issue, right? Workarounds are fine in incident management, right? Where you can provide workaround to your users and they can fix that issue using that workaround. But what happens if that incident keeps on appearing every now and then, right? If any incident keeps on appearing every now and then, that incident becomes a problem, and that has to be dealt separately, right? Otherwise, the other condition that you have is, if the incident affects more users, not just one user, then that incident has to be taken separately and has to be dealt separately under problem management processes. So for that, you will have this problem management application. Likewise, you have reporting and dashboards available in ServiceNow that you'll be using. You have field services application, will be seeing what these applications are, right? So this is overview of what kind of applications you'll be having in ServiceNow, and these are the different stuff that you'll be learning. So these are from the user perspective, right? From developer perspective, things like, how will you build this application? How will you build this problem management application, right? How will you customize this incident management application, right? So this, as a developer, you will be thinking how to do these applications, how to customize these applications, how to customize the workflows behind these applications, right? So these will be your activities as a developer that you'll be doing, right? Now you may argue, why do we have to always work with these applications, right? Now ServiceNow gives you ability to either use these applications or create custom applications of your own, right? You might have your own custom applications for any business process that you have within the organization, right? You go ahead and create your custom applications, have your own UI created for that custom application, have your own workflow to support that custom application, your own data, your own table, where the information from that application will go and be stored, right? Yes, you can do that. You can have your own custom application. You can use these applications which are already provided to you out of the box, right? Please stop me if I'm going too fast. If you have any questions, please ask me. Let's get a pause here, a couple of minutes. Any questions? We'll take that as a no. Now the same diagram, I have a different view of it, right? It shows a pyramid structure. Thanks, Peter. It shows a pyramid structure where, see from the top level where you have enterprise service model, right? And this enterprise service model will oversee different components, different business functions within the enterprise, right? It will include business management that has governance, vendor management, resource management, cost management, demand management, project and analytics. These components goes into business management, and for each of these components, you have applications available in ServiceNow, right? So see from this angle, see how an enterprise will be set up and what different functions within the enterprise would be there, right? So for these functions that you have within the organization, ServiceNow provides you a solution to that, right? Let's go to service management. Within service management, as we talked about, these are the components available, right? Release, password reset, problem, incident, CMDB, catalog, change. Most of these we discussed just now. The next is operation management and this application management, application development management. Operation management will also include discovery, configuration, automation, or orchestration, cloud provisioning, event, etc. Right? This extends this area from the previous screen. So apart from these applications that you have here, you will also have these. We'll be discussing in details later. And then when it comes to application development, you will have this app creator feature available, service creator, right? And then SDLC available in here, right? And then look at this area which says service automation platform, and it also highlights single architecture, shared resources, single data model, custom app development. What it points to you is you can build your own application, and that application will be based on the single architecture that ServiceNow has built. Meaning, the same architecture that is used to build all these applications in this, this red color bars here. The same architecture can be used by you to create your custom apps, right? And the data model that is followed by these applications, you may follow the same single data model, and you may use a shared resources that is being shared within these applications, all of these applications, right? We'll be seeing how we can correlate these, these diagrams, these applications, and the custom applications that we are going to build. Okay. Now then you have, so this block that we are saying, the bigger block here, the enterprise service model, it is interfacing itself to service providers. So on one end, these are the service providers who will provide services to you, and those services will be integrated to your ServiceNow environment, right? On the other end, you have different departments along with, with whom you are working on a day-to-day basis, right? Different departments like, the HR department, the IT department, the IT support department, the ERP department that you have, the service desk department. So the departments of this kind. Hang on a second. Somebody text here. Of course, Kabir, we intend to cover all those topics that will be necessary to um, clear the admin certifications. In fact, in my previous batch, one of the attendants just cleared a admin certification, and she was, she informed me that she did. So you can do that, yeah. I'll encourage you to ask questions using microphone because that way everybody may know what the question is and will understand the context. Anyways, moving on. This is just another view of it. There are some of the components in here that you may see which are new. For example, the workflow, the content management, the email, approvals, notifications, search, and reporting. So these will be the platform services. We'll be using these platform services in our applications that we build. Rest are same. The application stack that we see here, we just saw it on other diagrams. Share data we talk about, CMDB, the tasks and attachments. See, CMDB is the configuration management database that will be used across the globe here, across the board, within different applications or custom applications that you build. You have to consider using CMDB there, right? And then tasks. Tasks are very important. These are like, the parent table that you will be using in different applications, right? Because for any application that you build, you are going to create some task for somebody within your organization. This will be something that you are assigning to somebody within your organization, assigning to somebody or assigning to a group, right? So when the concept of assigning a task comes, you will have to deal with this task tables, right? And this share data, which is task. And then there are attachments that will be available everywhere. Attachments will be available in ServiceNow. So whenever you create, let's talk about whenever you create a change application or change record, right? You may have that ability to upload an attachment here, right? So that's something that we are seeing here. The attachment is also a shared data, right? And within the core component, you will have the user interface. So this comes from, the think from the perspective of a developer, right? So these are the things that we'll be doing. Not just this. This is this is a glimpse of what all activities you'll be doing in ServiceNow when it comes to a ServiceNow development role, right? So you'll be doing user interface designing, coding for that, scripting. You will create form and list management. This is something that you'll be doing. You'll take care of the database connectivity, right? You will do role-based security using this core component, core platform, and then these we already discussed. Now see, the extensibility of this application. This is accessible on BlackBerries. You can access it on Windows. It's now available on iPad, Android phone, iPhone, and it supports, mostly all of the common and most popular browsers uh, on available in the market right now, right? So these are the platforms where you can utilize ServiceNow. And as you know, we discussed that in the earlier session. Some of you are new, so I just want to repeat. To develop ServiceNow applications, all you need to have is a ServiceNow license, a subscription that you have to buy, and then you need a PC with a good with a browser, any of these browsers that you have here, and internet connection. You do not need any software installed on your PC, right, to do basic software development in ServiceNow. All you need is a browser, a good connection, internet connection, and a PC, right, and a subscription as well. That's it. Now, we discussed about this user interface here, the home area. We talked about this edge, the top banner, the content area, this search button, this user information bar, right, and this navigation pane. We'll be seeing quickly, we'll go to this home page just now and start exploring these areas. So I hope you have a ServiceNow developer instance by now. Uh, Let me know if you don't have an instance of your own, because that's important. That's where you'll be practicing what we do in the sessions today. Do you all have your instance of your own? We'll be discussing about that, Kabi. Uh, Helsinki features. There are different features available in Helsinki. Different features. You know, talking about incident application, they have changed the workflow here. Okay, Abhi and Vikrant, I'll encourage you to create your instances of your own. For now, I can give you my own instance, but will request you to go ahead and create an account on developer.servicenow.com and request an instance. These days, instances are available right now, right then and there. They are availing the instances immediately. So please do that. Now, answering Kabir's question about Helsinki, there are different new features available in ServiceNow, and they have customized several applications. Like this incident application, they have changed the workflow itself, right? It now has a different workflow. Uh, talking about talking about workflows and states, they have changed these states. If you go ahead and create a new incident, it opens up with awaiting review state, which used to be new earlier. Uh, if you go to see the workflow, if you go to the workflow editor, they have really transformed the workflow that you have here. Talking about the change application as well. If you see this change application, see they have completely redesigned the workflow here. Should come. See, the workflow has changed a lot. This application workflow has changed. They have changed the UI. UI 16 is introduced. It was introduced in Geneva release, but it has been continued here as well. There are different enhancements to export sets that we have. Export sets enhancement has been done, and there are several other new features introduced in Helsinki release. We'll be talking about those features later. Uh, I just want to don't want to do this right now, because some of you are starting right now. Some of you are new to ServiceNow. So we'll be doing that we'll be doing a comparative study uh, between ServiceNow Helsinki and earlier releases. We'll be doing that. Now, so let's quickly go and see the home area, right? Some of the uh, practical aspects. So see, if you have to browse through the different applications that you have, you can go ahead and use this navigation pane. The left pane that you have, the navigation pane, you can go ahead and use it. For example, if you want to refer to the change application, go to the change section, right? Then you will see this application. This the bold bar. The bold bar that you have here. These show to you that these are applications, and to this application you have different modules available. Modules as in creating this change record here, right? Showing what are changes that are assigned to you, right? You can open the change request. You can see the list of open change requests using this module. So there are different modules available. There are some administration modules, the schedule modules available here that you can go ahead and use. So that's one of the applications. If I have to look into my own device application that I created, this is a custom application that I created earlier. So if I have to go ahead and search my application, I can go ahead and search my device application. It will present to me the application here with all the modules that I have built for this application, right? So this application, the device tracker application that I have here, is not ServiceNow application. It's a custom application that I built, right? So I can search through this. Now, as we talked about different roles, and we talked about roles and impersonations of roles, you can go ahead and use this impersonation button here where you can impersonate yourself as a different user. For example, right now I have logged in as a system administrator, but now if I need to go into ServiceNow instance as a David Lu, as a person known name as David Lu, I can go ahead and pick David Lu, and it will impersonate myself as David Lu, and you can go ahead and see whatever David Lu is able to see using the roles that he has, right? He may or may not have access to all the application depending upon the access level or privileges or roles that he is assigned to, right? So that's how you impersonate yourself and go into and see as a different user. Impersonation will be important for ServiceNow developers or support personalities because they can go ahead and have a real feel of what issues the person is having, right? Without even have to, go to, person's desk or seeing, what issue he has without doing any, a lot of email exchanges. You do not have to do those email exchanges there. I don't understand the question, Kabi. That depends. If you impersonation cannot be done by everybody. So if I hang on a second, I'm going to log out. Yeah, if a person has an admin right, then only you will be able to impersonate. If you do not have admin right, you will not be able to impersonate, right? So if within your organization you are a tester and you have been given admin rights, of course that will be useful for you. But it totally depends how your organization has or your team has structured and what are roles that are given to your team or different individuals within your team on your instance. Hope that makes sense. So that's impersonation. We'll be using this impersonation a lot when we do practical stuff. Now, when you have to learn a new tool anyway, you should be starting to understand the data structure that is laid behind that tool, right? So that's where comes the need for referencing the table structure, the data structure, the relationships that you have for that tool, right? We'll be discussing that, but let's first start with creating a user within ServiceNow, right? So if you have to create a user in ServiceNow, how do you do that? The simplest way to do that, to create a single user record in system, you need to go into the navigation pane and start typing users. When you do that, under system security, you will see users module. Go ahead and click on this users module. Clicking on this users module will present to you a list of data available from the user table, and that will be shown in this content pane area. This content pane will show that these many user records are already created in the user table that you can access. And if you closely watch, there is a button new that you can use to create a new user record in the table, right? So this is by far the simplest way to create a user within the system, right? Let's quickly go ahead and create a user. I'll create a training user. Let's call it training user 1. These are fields, some of the fields that you might like to fill in. For example, the first name, title. You may pick a title from here. For example, title will be different designation that you have within your organization. See, there are different controls in ServiceNow. We'll be discussing how to build these controls as well. See, this one is a lookup control, suggestion control that you have here. This is referencing some of the suggestions from some sort of table somewhere. We will see how do we pull information from different tables later. But this is a predefined list of items available for title. You go ahead and click this and you'll get a list of items. Pick any one of that here and then you're done. Another control that we have here is a lookup control. See, the department control, it's slightly different than this one. This is a suggestion. This one is a lookup control. This is again referencing a different table, and from that table it is going to pull out information that you can pick, right? So this is essentially picking up the department table data and will be showing that here, right? Now, you can pick any of this information from the department table and include that to this user record that you are going to create. You have this new button here. This signifies that you can create a new department record in the department table from here, right here, right? We are not going to pick the department here or not going to create a department record, but that's how we do. If you want to have a password for the user, let's go ahead and put a password. I'm going to put a password as training user 1, right? Can you hear me? Okay. Sorry about that. See, some of these fields are optional, right? Let's go ahead and put a password. I'm just going to put the user ID as a password here. Copy paste it. You can, pick password needs reset. So when you tick this out, whenever the user logs into the system next, you will have to reset the password. See, most of these fields will have tooltips associated. For example, if you go to this web services access only, you'll get a hint, right? So, and these hints are customizable, right? These comes from the data dictionary for these labels that you have here, right? Some of these might not have those hints. Uh, right? But some of these fields will have hints that you can use, right? Now, password needs reset is when you do, you do want your user to reset the password the first time he logs into the system. Logged out will be, when you try different number of times, if you provide wrong password, the account can be logged out, right? So you will have to request to reset the password or unlock the account. So that's for logged out. Other information that you have here is the email, the notification. So you can enable or disable notification, meaning if you want to receive notification from ServiceNow, you will have to put it enabled, right? Calendar integration, if you want to enable this user account to be integrated to calendars, the Outlook calendar integration that you want to do, you have to have this information. You can put the time zone information about the user, the date format the user is interested in, the business phone number, the mobile phone number, and the photo for the user can also be uploaded here. These two checkboxes that we have here, the internal integration user, which is used for integration with different components internally, we'll see how we can use this internal integration user. Another one is the web services access only. So if you tick this system will make sure that the user is not able to log on to this UI. This will be used for integration of ServiceNow instance with other third-party systems using web services. And when we talk about web services, we talk about SOAP integration or RESTful integrations, right? So this will only allow to do integrations using those web services and will not allow the user to log onto the interface and have a feel of this UI, right? That being said, let's go ahead and submit this record. What's that, Kavi? Can you rephrase the question or can you speak through the microphone? I want to make sure that I understand the question correctly. So this is what I intend to say. This is your ServiceNow box, ServiceNow application or instance somehow, right? Let's assume that this is a ServiceNow instance that you are having, and there are different third-party apps that you have, right? Now you want to interface these two applications, meaning you want to exchange data from ServiceNow to ServiceNow, right? And these two are remote applications, right? How do you do that? You use web services. You create web services either on ServiceNow end or on third-party end, and then you expose those endpoints for integrating to other end, right? Now, having that web services access only checkbox there ensures that the web service, the user that you create, so each web service that you create, if this web service has to access data from the ServiceNow instance, you will have to have a user in place that will allow this web service to log into the system and do activities related to that web service or play with the data that you have there, right? But then you do not want to allow people from this end, the right end here, to modify anything but data from the ServiceNow instance, right? So if you are allowing just a handful of data or tables from ServiceNow to be altered by this web service user, you have to mark that user as web service access only. That will make sure that the user is not authorized to use any of the screens. He cannot go ahead and change the screens look and feel or play with any other thing which he or she is not authorized to do. That's why you have this web service user, right? Is that clear? I still don't understand the question. Is it same as portal? I still don't understand the question. If you can rephrase that, I'll help you with that answer. Okay. Now, now let's go ahead and try logging using that user. I'll go ahead and put training user 1. Now I have logged into the ServiceNow instance using training user credentials. Now let's look into the navigation pane that you have here. It only presents to you the self-service and collaboration, right? And then you have these system themes, etc., that you can change. I don't see any impersonation button. Let's quickly go ahead and try to see if we can change the UI view. For this, it's not available. You cannot go and switch it to the system UI 15. Let's go ahead and see if we can impersonate that. Oh, we don't have impersonation button here. However, you have your profile available. You can go and, yeah, see, UI ServiceNow has, you see this ServiceNow application, it has a different CSS that you see here. If you go to, see, I'll go to the admin account and show you the other UI. This UI that you have seen, that you are seeing here, is having a different layout, different theme, a different CSS implemented. It's a more compact view that you see here. This view is known as UI 16 view, the latest view ServiceNow is offering to its users, right? The other view that we were on to earlier was UI 15, right, which was available up until Geneva release. It is also available right now, but now you have the ability to choose between UI 15 and UI 16. It's just a UI, a naming convention for the UI that you have. You can switch through those UI, whatever UI you prefer. Either you use the UI 15 having a different layout, or you use this UI 16 having another layout and another theme, etc. Right? Now, the point that I am trying to discuss here is using the training user. I can only see this self-service application with a limited set of modules, and I can see this collaboration application here, right? But remember, for the admin, we had different applications available in the nav pane that we were able to see, right? And we didn't have impersonation button for this standard user that we just created, the training user one that we created. We didn't have that impersonation button there. See, this is the UI 15. I'm saying, right? This is having a different layout, different look and feel, right? So that's UI 15. You can go ahead and change the UI from this 16 UI 16 to UI 16 from this settings gear that you have here. You have this button here which is known as switch to UI 16. When you click this switch to UI 16, you are able to change that to that theme, the UI 16 theme, right? And compare it to the training user that we just created. So the training user, just had the two applications, but the admin having a greater role will have different other applications available, right? And now you can go ahead and impersonate as well, right? But for the standard user, you were not able to impersonate, right? So that's the difference. Now, if we go back to the users and try to reopen that record, see there are some basics of how to search through the records that you have. We now have 570 records in this user table, but I don't know where my user record is that we just created, right? So a few ways of doing that. You can go ahead and search through using these filters that you have here. For example, I can go ahead and search on the basis of training. When I do training, and I know that my user was training user 1, if I search on training, it will show me everything is starting from T, right? And see the filter applied here. It says from all of the records you are picking name is greater than equal to training, which means out of all of the 570 records that you had, you are picking those records which matches the criteria of training. Name is greater than equal to training. The other way of doing that is do a wildcard search, where if you do not remember the name correctly, you only remember the first four characters, you can go ahead and do a percentage search, a wildcard search, right? Put a percentage sign, prefix and suffix to the text that you want to search, and it will present to you the records which is eligible for that, the qualifying record. And see the filter here. Out of all the records, you now have name contains try, TRAI, right? And you now have, out of the 570 records, only 2 records qualified for that, and now you have these records here. You can also go ahead and search on the basis of user ID. So if you remember the user ID, go ahead and just pick the user ID field here, type in the user ID value here, and then search it. It will show to you the user ID at first, and then followed by all other records related to that, right? You can extend this filter and apply multiple filters here. For example, in this case, you can do user ID is greater than or is training user 1. You can apply and or several filters that you want to have. And the columns that you are seeing here is the table columns, right? So from the user table, you will see all the columns which is available for that user table, and you will get those columns, and based upon that, you can filter out, right? And there are different filtration criteria. For example, user ID starts with this, ends with this. User ID contains this. Contains is the person search that we were doing. Likewise, you have other filters or parameters or comparison types that you can apply to get the filter on, right? So that's another way of searching through the records that you have in that table. Let's go back. If you see, you have a setting gear button here, which is update personalized list. So this view that we see here is a list layout, right? Because it is listing all the records from the table, and the table here in this case is user table. See this label here, the users table, right? So you are seeing all the records from this user table, which is displaying 570 records. You have a filter button that you are using. You have a search button with some filters that you can use to go ahead and search based upon the text that you remember. And then you have this personalized list gear button here, which will be used to show the columns from the table that you are interested into. Right now, I can only see user ID, name, email, active, created, updated, and building, right? But what if you want to have some of the fields from this? You don't want this building column because you don't see any of the data populated here. So I can get rid of this building column, right? Then I can go ahead and pick some of, for example, I can pick city, right? I am interested into looking into what city the user is into, right? So I can go ahead and bring city into this selected box here, and then I can reorder the columns as well, right? If I move city up after name, when I save it, city information will be displayed after name column, Let's do it. I'll get rid of building column, and now I have the sitting column coming in here, right? So that's to personalize the layout that you have here, and this feature will be available to you in almost every list layout screen that you see across the board, right? Not just user table, any record, any application, any list layout that you refer to, you will have these features available there, right? Now, you have this city column available here. You got rid of the building column. You also have features of sorting based upon the column names that you have here. You can sort on the basis of user ID by clicking on this user ID field here. You can sort on basis of name. You can apply multiple sorts, sort on name and then sort on city, then sort on email, right? It will allow you multi-level sort, and then you can filter out data. The, the easiest way to look into the latest record that I created, my preferred way of doing that is the updated field, the updated column. I go ahead and sort on the basis of updated column, and when I sort on the basis of updated column, I get the most recent record created into the table. That's how I do it, right? Now, and now you also see some of the checkboxes here. To each record, you can see checkboxes. You can select these records, and when you select these records, you can do multiple selection as well. When you select these records, go below this drop down that you have, many of these options will be enabled. If you unselect it, the options will be there, but this will not be enabled. So this is a contextual drop down items available for you here. Select a record and you have it. For example, if you want to delete this record, right, I can go ahead, select that record here, hit delete. It will ask for confirmation, and it will delete it. It says that 3 expense lines are attached to this user and 2 user entitlements are done. When I hit this record will be deleted from the user table, right? Likewise, there are different other actions that you can see, right? We'll be discussing about these actions, but I just want to make sure that you understand what are the available options available on the pages. Now let's go into the training user one that we created. When we created the training user one record, we only had this much of screen area there. We only had to supply this much of data to create that record. But now when we open this, we have different other elements available on this page. See, it comes with some of the related links. We will talk about what these related links are, and then some of the related lists as well. For example, roles, groups, delegates, subscriptions, right? So these are the options available here. So my point is, now that we have created that record and we open that record, some of these items appear, and these sections on the page will appear contextually and will show related data to the record that you created, right? Now you can go ahead and associate any role to this user. Right now, when we created this training user one, we didn't associate any role to this user, right? Now I can go ahead and pick different roles that I want to associate to this user. When you do edit roles, you will see this list layout here, this layout here, where you will have this listing of all the roles available in system. You can go ahead and pick as many roles, drag it to the other side, which says roles list for training user, and then you can go ahead and save it. Doing that will associate all these roles to this user. I don't want to do this, so I'll go ahead and pick a different role, which is the device tester role. Associate that device tester role here. You can also go ahead and pick admin role, right? If you pick admin role, most of the roles, admin has all the privileges. Most of the privileges. I'll not say all the privileges, because even having The admin role will not entitle you to have this elevated privileges activated for you by default. We will talk about this in later sessions. But this is how you can associate your roles to the user. You can save it. And now that you go ahead and impersonate that user, the training user 1, you will see more than one application, more than those two applications there. Now, to impersonate as a training user 1, I can go ahead and again do the search on the basis of training user 1. Okay, this is not displaying the ID field here, so it confuses me, right? See, this ID field, the user ID field, that is not getting displayed there. I'll talk about how to do that, how to display any of the fields on that screen. So I can go ahead and pick training user. I know that this is a training user because I didn't supply the email ID to it. So I can go ahead and pick training user, impersonate it, do OK, and then I'll be able to see through the view that this training user will now be able to see. See, there are different other applications available now for this training user, right? Because we supplied this admin role to this user. Okay, so this way we can create users, we can impersonate, having an admin role, we can impersonate to a different user and you know associate roles to that user account and allow users to access different areas of the application in the ServiceNow instance. Okay, so that's all we'll be doing today. Tomorrow we'll be discussing about groups, delegates, subscription, and then we'll go ahead into tables and columns and start doing tables and columns, start understanding how to create tables, how to establish relationship, how to see what schema map is, and how to take inference from the schema maps that we have within ServiceNow. So stuff like that we'll be doing tomorrow. But that's it for today. If you have questions, you are free to ask questions if you have any. Any questions, anybody? Any change that you like to have in this training, my style of training? See, the course duration will be somewhere around 40 hours. It will not be less than 40 hours, but it may extend more than 40 hours because sometimes some of the students or participants take some more time to do some of the components or developer activities. So at the minimum, we'll have 40 hours devoted for this training.